How's this for an angle? Is this better? Welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Now redubbed by Disney, or current Lucasfilm. Legends. Today we have an end of an era, for the most part. We have a comic book to get through after this, and then one more novel, but it came out during the Del Rey time, but chronologically it takes place, after this, so whatever. But for the most part, this is the finale to an era. We had the prequel era, we had the original movie era, this is the end of the New Republic era. Before the New Jedi Order series, before the Yusong Vong. So today for you, I have The Hand of Thrawn, Duology, by Timothy Zahn, Specter of the Past, and Visions of the Future. It is basically one contiguous story. It basically is like an 800-page book if you just put them together, but they're separate. So they're two books, but there was really only one book needed. So the summary that I'm going to give counts for both of them. Of course, you'll if you're going to get the first one, you're going to have to read the second one, because the story does not really end. It's a lot of setup in the first one. Specter of the Past begins. It is 12 years since the Battle of Endor. So it's been a long time. We've gone through adventures together. If you've been following my reviews, we've been going through this for a while now. It's felt like a while for sure. Of course, in universe, it's been 12 years. So, Pelion, he's like, you know what? We're never getting the Empire back. We're never getting back to what it was. We need a peace treaty. And so that's what he wants to do. He wants to bring peace between what remains of the Empire and the New Republic. Thrawn is back? Question mark? Back from the dead? How? What? Why? Clone? Maybe? Who knows? Gotta read it to find out. The New Republic is having internal issues because of a dispute over this particular thing that they found out about. Was stuff that happened way before the original movies. And everyone is off to find this document to bring peace to this whole ordeal. Meanwhile, Luke goes to help Mara, as she has been captured, seemingly so. And maybe their bonds are going to grow closer together. And that will be it for non-spoiler. Really, all the books I've been reviewing have been pretty non-essential. You don't necessarily need to read anything to get any of the stuff that's going to happen later on with the New Jedi Order or anything. Of course, if you read everything, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that character, that character, that character, that character, that character. And you're going to, oh fudge. You're going to be, rewarded for having read through everything. But you don't need to. This is definitely one of the more important ones that you got to sit through. So, as it is the end of an era for Star Wars, before we move on to more darker, depressing things like New Jedi Order with the Yusong Vong, read this book. Read these two books. They are a necessity for your Star Wars Expanded Universe experience. So, I will say, I really feel as if this entire series did not need two books. You could have sliced down most of the first book into like maybe 100 pages, if even that, and sliced down a lot of the filler in the second book, and you could have had like a 600-page story. But instead they put it out into two books, so it just feels really long. And, I love Black Fleet Crisis. A lot of people find it boring. I love the political stuff. I love the political stuff in this too, but there are some parts where I'm just like, okay, can you move forward? Let's get this going. And it doesn't do that sometimes, and it does get a bit boring at times, at least for me personally. Everybody, sucks Timothy Zahn's booby. Sorry, I'm trying to make this work. And they're like, he's the greatest guy ever. I mean, yeah, he's a good author, but I do not think he's the best author we have. I do not think that the Thrawn trilogy or this duology is the best that the Star Wars Expanded Universe has to offer. Still, nothing has beat the Darth Bane trilogy for me or Darth Plagueis. Those are still two of my favorite novels from the EU that I've read so far. I haven't read everything in the EU yet. I'm going to be reading a lot of it. But as of right now, they haven't beat that. They're good, don't get me wrong. But they are not the holy trinity that they're made out to be. But it is a really good read, and it is essential if you're trying to go through the EU. It is something you need to eventually read. It's very significant. You have many characters from the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series show up in this. Every character, even in the books that may have not been that good, they get a reference here. They get a mention. It just all culminates in this book, and it's really, really worth your time to read. It is the end to a decade plus 2 years worth of material, at least in lore, in universe, and it is definitely an event. And from now on, when we get to New Jedi Order, we're going to see TIE fighters working with X-Wings to defeat an enemy. Because now they're allies, which is just cool. They're not, when we get to New Jedi Order, we're not going to rehash A New Hope like Force Awakens did, or totally botch Luke's character like The Last Jedi did. We're going to have actual faithful continuations of these characters. It's going to be really cool. But you got to read this first before going to that, especially because of the things it hints at, like the unknown regions and mysterious threats. I will say, for that stuff that is in this book, Timothy Zahn has said multiple times he did not mean the Yusong Vong. He had no idea what he meant. He wanted to tease a threat that someone else could, use later, and people came up with the Yusong Vong. But considering what I know about that, even though I haven't read it yet, it fits so freaking well, and it's so cool. Anyway, that's it for non-spoiler. I'm getting a spoiler for both these books. If you don't want that, leave. Anyway, that was your warning. I'm getting into it. So, where am I? Oh. Starting with Specter of the Past, which is the first book in the duology. Yeah. Pellion's just like, there is no hope for the resurgence of the Empire. The Empire will never be as strong, as powerful as it once was. Let's just make peace. I have to say, I think, oh my freaking goodness, if I ever, get, oh my goodness, whatever. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, friends. Please forgive me. Everything's not working as I wanted to. But, yeah, this is the problem of being a small YouTuber. I just got my phone. But, if I had to make like a top 10 favorite characters from the EU, I think Pellion would be one of the highest ones. Thrawn, too. As much as I give crap to Zahn, not because I think he's a bad author by any means, but just because everybody sucks him. Just like, oh, worship him. I'm like, he's great, but he's not the best, and he's been kind of rude to other authors before, which rubs me the wrong way. But, he created two fantastic characters, multiple fantastic characters. He created Talon Card, he created Mara Jade, he created Thrawn, he created Pellion. And Pellion is just an amazing character, and I love every time he shows up. I know Zahn didn't write Darksaber, but one of my favorite parts of Darksaber was Pellion, because I just think he's a really interesting and fantastic character. So, as we find out, this is spoilers again. I'm going to be spoiling all of it. If you don't want spoilers, go bye-bye. We learn that the Thrawn is a fake. It's a con artist that's, playing Thrawn. One thing that I definitely would have preferred about this series, about this duology, is what I think they should have done. I mean, I'm no author, but it was frustrating because I already knew the truth, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, Thrawn's back, Thrawn's back, Thrawn's back. And everyone else is, ignorant. Well, I know the truth. I think it would have worked better if we found out at the end of the first book that the Thrawn was a fake, and then the second one, goes as it goes. I just don't think we should have known from, the very beginning that the Thrawn was a fake. But we did. We knew it was fake. But as it goes, he's still, when he's being theatrical and talking like Thrawn, he does sound like Thrawn, and he gives the, the presence of Thrawn, and it it just made me wish Thrawn was there. We get to see Booster from X-Wing, Booster Tarek. It was so good to see him. I love him. Myrax and Corn Horn, they have a freaking 6-year-old kid. I'm so happy for them. Because Myrax and Corn Horn were one of my favorite characters from the expanded universe. They're all from the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series by Michael Stackpole, and I'm just so glad that they got to be a part of this. It felt like a big Avengers crossover of the Bantam era, of the New Republic era, so that was cool. Of course, everyone, when they hear the name Thrawn, and it just shows you, like how powerful a name it is. Like, he is one of the villains, like, next to Emperor and Vader. Like, you know, people freaked out when the Emperor came back, and people would freak out if Vader came back. But as well, when people hear rumors that Thrawn is back, everyone's like, oh my god, Thrawn's back, what are we going to do? Because we already faced him once, what are we going to do? We barely won last time, what are we going to do? Like, they're all freaking out. And it just really shows, like, the presence and the significance that Thrawn had on the galaxy when he showed up. I wrote down that Pelion really feels like a true successor to Thrawn, because the way he articulates himself, he's definitely different from Thrawn in a lot of ways. You know, he is his own person, and he's definitely not going to be as intelligent as Thrawn. No one will ever be as intelligent as Thrawn. But I love how he's learned from Thrawn in a way, and he's become better for it. Because he's now the Grand Admiral of the entire, of the remainder of the Empire. You know, what's left of it. Which isn't much. And I just really love him. So now we're going to go to Visions of the Future. There wasn't too much to talk about in the first one. Like I said, it's a lot of filler, a lot of setup for this next one, which is, of course, Book 2, Visions of the Future. I love when Pelion, you know, finds out hears the rumor about Thrawn being alive. He gets upset because he's like, why wouldn't he come to me if he is alive? Was I just a tool to him? Because that was one thing that Thrawn and Pelion definitely had. They definitely had this sort of Sherlock Holmes, Watson sort of dynamic together. And I definitely do, now this is just my interpretation, could be wrong, I definitely do feel like Thrawn legitimately cared about Pelion, definitely enjoyed his company. And so I just enjoyed that little insight he had. I had the most notes for this final book. This is later on in the book, but Leia meets Pelion, and that the whole conversation, it was interesting because they never, oh fudge, I'm telling you, I hate everything, but I'm sorry, it's gonna keep happening, but they never got to meet before, so it was really interesting seeing their dynamic. When we read Children of the Jedi, Han was with Chewbacca, and he mentioned, you know, we're getting a bit old for this. And here again we have Lando. He mentions, you know, like, you know, we're getting old. And that just, it was a really funny moment. Enjoyed it. So now they're finally really, like, pushing this Mara Jade and Luke romance. And I wasn't digging it at first. I do love it now. I had to soften up to it, but at the end of the Thrawn trilogy, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cute that he handed her, you know, the Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, the lightsaber that Obi-Wan had given him. But then they didn't do anything for 12 years. And so now Zahn's trying to make up for 12 years in universe of developing their relationship to make them fall in love. It just felt a little forced. I don't know. I wasn't digging that whole section for a bit. It took me until a certain part to where I was like really started to get invested and care. Right. Speaking of which, this makes me so excited to go back in time to read the prequel era stuff because of Outbound Flight, which was mentioned several times in the Thrawn trilogy, but it was just a name, and it's mentioned here as well. The Outbound Flight project, which we still don't know everything about it here. If you were reading this chronologically, of course you would, but I didn't get a chance to read it. But the mystery behind it is so interesting, and I love it. Like, I have to say, I enjoyed like the first 100 pages of this book, and then I got kind of bored up until the part where we saw the Hand of Thrawn and the people and the different chists and stuff, like and the people working that are like totally devoted to Thrawn and stuff. And then I was like, oh my goodness, oh yeah, this is good stuff. So the official story is that Thrawn was exiled from the Empire for being bad at politics. That Thrawn tried to play politics, and he failed at it miserably, and got sent to the unknown regions. Of course, that was something that was actually planned by Emperor Palpatine and Thrawn. Of course, however, I will say I find it fascinating because despite the fact that that's not the full truth, it is. Emperor Palpatine and Thrawn are pretty close together in terms of intelligence. But the thing with... this is a weird camera angle I got here, I just realized. But whatever, it's too late. The interesting thing with Emperor Palpatine is that he is super intelligent and super cunning when it comes to politics. So to play the game and get what he wants done. Thrawn is not a political guy. If it was Palpatine versus him in political battles, Thrawn would lose. He is a military strategist. He is an expert when it comes to military tactics and getting the advantage in war. Politics is not a strong suit. So even though it wasn't necessarily the real reason, it's still something that is a weakness on Thrawn's part. Whereas Emperor Palpatine's super good with politics, but would not be good as a leader in the middle of battle. So I just find that really interesting. Palpatine and Thrawn, of course, planned it because they both knew about the threat in the unknown regions. And they both knew they had to prepare for this threat. And Thrawn, before that, was found by the Empire on a deserted world, which I also found really interesting, which hopefully we'll learn more about that in the Outbound Flight book. I don't know if you will, but that's going to be a long time from now. I said 400 pages till we got to the really juicy stuff. Just a little note, that's all. I have too much to say to that, just that. I was like, yeah, okay. I was enjoying it, but I wasn't loving it till we got to all of this. I was like, oh my god, yes. Because of Outbound Flight, Thrawn was watched carefully by his people. And because of the way he dealt with the Chiss, which is his alien race's names, enemies, he was exiled by his people. Stent, who's working with the Empire cell there, who is also a Chiss, when he's talking about the unknown regions and the threat that it holds, it's so ominous. And to know that one of those threats is the Yusong Vong. Even though Zahn never meant for the Vong to be the case, it collides so well together, gels so well, and it makes me totally pumped to read New Jedi Order. Because yes, we're finally at peace with the Empire. The Empire is no longer going to be the threat anymore. We're done with the Empire being the villain, unlike the new sequel trilogy, where they just renamed him the New Order or whatever they did. No, we're gonna have a new threat, a different sort of threat. But the fear that these people show about the unknown regions just makes you go, oh my goodness. Like, how bad are these? How bad are these threats outside of the unknown regions? What are these things that they have to be so worried about and get so prepared for? And we'll find out soon enough. Well, we have quite a bit. We still have a bit to go before we finally get there. But when we get there, it's going to be fun. But it was just really, really ominous. And it just had this really dark and foreboding tone. Which is peculiar because New Jedi Order is a lot more dark, a lot more gritty, and a lot more serious. Which a lot of people don't like. They're like, well, you're not allowed to be dark in Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin literally slices down children and gets burnt on screen. But New Jedi Order is too dark. Okay. I mean, I know when New Jedi Order came out, Revenge of the Sith hadn't come out. I think Attack of the Clones had come out by that point, but still. Ridiculous argument. But anyway, that entire section was just fantastic, and I'm fangirling over it. I'm sorry. Thrawn was behind Isgard, remember from X-Wing Rogue Squadron, capturing Baron Fell. Baron Fell now works with these people because Thrawn showed him what the threat was and why he had to help prepare. And then there's a whole side plot with it's still important over to the main stuff, but Talon Card goes and meets up with this guy named Cardass. It sounds like I'm cussing, but I'm not. That's his name, Cardass, and I really liked his character in it. While Luke and Mara are exploring this place, they find that what do you know? There's a clone of Thrawn, chilling there. It ends up dying later, but still. Thrawn had contingencies for if he had failed, that there would be a replacement, which I just found cool. Luke asks Mara to marry her when they're in a life or death situation. So that happens, which we'll read in the comic book, their marriage. Tierce, if you've been reading all these books, you know who Tierce is. So I'm not going to go into detail about him. If you're in this far in the video, I'm assuming you've read it. But we find out that Tierce is a clone. In the entire scene with Pelion and Tierce, that entire scene was so expertly written. I loved it. I loved Tierce basically freaking out and be like, "No, I'm the clone that Thrawn wanted. I'm just as smart as he is. I can do this. I can bring us back on top." And Pelion's like, "Nah. We're done fighting. It's over. We're making that peace treaty." The whole scene was so expertly well done. I forgot how much time passed while reading it. I was enjoying it that much. Even after Luke asked Mara to marry her, I was like, alright. And it wasn't until a little bit later, when I called it, that she had to go into this transfer bit. And she has to have a phrase that will wake her up. And I called it. I said, it's gonna be "I love you." And of course, what does Luke say to wake her up is "I love you." It's really cheesy. And I was like, damn it. All right, you got me. I'm for it. I'm for them. Let's go. And so it took me a while, but I finally was for it. The New Republic and the Empire are finally at peace. They are no longer at war. They have made a peace treaty, and all is seemingly bright and happy for the galaxy. Till everything that's about to happen. Let's give it a few more years. And Card starts a joint intelligence service to help keep the peace. Because the Empire isn't going to necessarily trust the New Republic all the time, and the New Republic isn't going to trust the Empire. But if you have a guy in the middle giving information to both equally and unbiasedly, then you can have a lot more faith and trust between the two. So that's really cool. As I said, this is a new era for Star Wars. We are done with the Empire being the threat of the weak, being the enemy. We're done with the Empire being the threat. They are allies now. And we're going to have other threats to begin to deal with. But before we get there, those are a couple years ahead. We still want to go see Mara and Luke's wedding. I will not be doing a review for, or I will not be writing notes for Union because it's a comic book. So I'm just going to give my general thoughts. At least is what I've decided upon. Survivor's Quest. Then we have the Junior and Young Jedi Knight series. Those are young adult novels that we'll be reading. And then after that, which deal with the solo kids. Then after that, we will begin the series of depression upon depression upon depression upon depression. New Jedi Order. The Yusong Vong will invade. So I hope you all would join me on that journey. I don't know if you can tell, but I clearly enjoyed myself, at least near the end, because I'm happy and gittery, and also no one's home to yell at me for being loud. So if you ever notice where sometimes I'm not as loud as I could be, it's because other people are in the house, so I'm trying to be respectful. But they're not here right now, so I can be as enthusiastic as I want to be. But that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy the expanded universe, let me know about some of your favorite stories, some of your least favorite stories, in the comment section below. And if you've never checked out the Star Wars Expanded Universe, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be watching this video. This is spoilers. Go out, read the Thrawn trilogy, or go start an Old Republic era. I don't know. Start anywhere, but have a good time. And if you like the new trilogy, listen, I bashed it a lot because I'm a jerk. If you love the new trilogy, more power to you. You got more to enjoy, but I would still recommend checking out these things and considering it some sort of alternate universe, because I think these stories deserve to be told, deserve to be heard, deserve to be enjoyed. I'm a Christian, and hopefully when we get to like the Jason stuff and whatnot, because he goes through a lot of stuff in New Jedi Order from what I understand, and other works. I don't want to get into spoilers for future books. We'll get into that when we get to that. But God created the people that would make these things. And I think that there was less greed involved with these stories. These stories are written by people who genuinely enjoyed the world, wanted to make a story that was worth telling. And I feel like with the sequel trilogy, a lot of it was corporate money. We want money, we want money, we want money. And then Rian Johnson might have been more, caring about his work, but he didn't care about the work. He didn't care about the work behind the work that he was working on. He had his vision of what he wanted to make and didn't care about the stuff that had came before. And so that's how I feel about that. This is probably one of my longest videos that I've done for these series, but you know what? There was a lot to talk about, and it needed to be talked about. And if I'm annoying you for talking like this, I apologize. But we have got done with an era, my friends, and moving forward, we only have more interesting stories to tell. And then I'm going to revert back to the past and start all the way with before the prequels. So I hope you all will join me on this expedition through the Star Wars Expanding Universe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.